What's up, everybody? I'm Bryce Sherbach, and this is Mountain Bikers Riding Bikes Talking Trails. I am a mile from the Pacific Ocean on the Oregon coastline in the small but beautiful town of Bandon, where I have been enjoying myself on the Whiskey Run trails. Oregon coast is not a place full of dense population centers or anything along those lines. Quite the opposite. It's very sparsely populated. But here in Bandon, there is this trail network at Whiskey Run. It's a quintessential coastal riding system. It's beautiful, very green, lush. The Wild Rivers Coast Mountain Bike Association handles this place. They manage a bunch of trails up north, about a half an hour in Coos Bay, and really like from here, an hour and a half down to the California state line. It's a big swath of land for one trail association, but there just aren't a lot of people that call this place home, so they're the ones that are in charge of all this stuff. I'm riding with Eddie and Aaron Kessler. They are a couple, and they're both very, very deeply involved in the mountain bike community here and in the Wild Rivers Coast Mountain Bike Association. Eddie was actually a founding member of the association, and he is the Trails Programs Coordinator, which is effectively like an executive director, but his focus is primarily on trails and trail construction. He also owns and operates Ptarmigan Trails. And then Erin is currently the secretary of the Wild Rivers Coast Mountain Bike Association, and she's also the owner and operator of the Pineapple Express, a bike shop about a half an hour south of here in Port Orford. We checked out a few of the trails over in phase 3, the more progressive zone of this area. It rains here all the time. The trails handle it brilliantly. They kind of have to, or else you're not gonna ride your bike. So let's go. You guys, this is the hub, you call this, right?
This is the hub of the Volstead.
Volstead.
Which is this other 4 miles of trail. It's like an extra zone. This is like the phase 3 zone. And all the other whiskey trails are on the other side of this drainage.
Right over there. So all the contours, you can see Tumbler, there's a big, the double black and the loam and gnomes are all coming down into this drainage. So you can cross across a little creek, 7 Mile Creek, and you take a blue climber up, and then you have all these little wings that you can hit, and they're all blue and black trails with jumps.
Yeah.
And it's more dedicated. Like if you're coming over here, you're doing a minimum like 5 to 6 mile ride, even on one lap. And it's a little steeper. There's more loam, like real loam with needles and everything on the trails. It's a little bit more of a hybridization of everything we've been learning at Whiskey since 2017.
Yeah. And you said it was like basically a phase 3.
We can do it
meaning like phase 1, I'm assuming was in that main parking area.
Classic.
Yeah, phase 1 Whiskey Classic.
Whiskey Classic is what they call it.
That's like north of the parking area.
Yes.
And then phase 2 is like mostly this larger ring here that was like this whole side of that drainage.
Yeah.
All the way down to the snag area. And then phase 3 was crossing and coming up here.
Yeah. And this is this probably it for the build out here at Whiskey Run?
I mean, this made 32 miles, and I think that's it for now.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of trail.
And once things start being logged or transition, we'll build and restore trails. But the other thing is that thanks to ACVA and TSOC, which is Travel Southern Oregon Coast, and the Oregon Coast Business Association, we have annual maintenance funding outside of just volunteer work. So that's like really important to keep our quality of our trails.
I like that it isn't a mega wide corridor, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you guys when you're starting to plan for something like that, it's a 2-part question. Are you trying to like maybe keep it a little bit tighter so it feels a little bit more traily? And what are like, how challenging is it? Because I imagine like if you have the tools for a lot of times, man, like just keep the corridor wide. It's easier to build jumps, longer, like all those things. So is it more effort that goes into keeping a narrower corridor for a jump line?
It is more effort, and there's a couple of reasons. But one of the driving factors of why it's narrow is this is a tree farm, and so you can see like everything in here is pretty much similar spacing. I think this has been thinned, but like in the ultimate, we really have like 16 feet maximum. So when you see a lot of these like slope style stuff or even videos or photos from places up in Northwest Washington or even in California and other parts of Oregon, they have a much more expansive space to get the angle of repose on the grades of jumps, and we can't do that. So we're never gonna have, that's not what Whiskey Run is, we're never gonna have giant features like that. And we don't market it as such, and I think people know that and they're cool with it. But because of that, it forces us into a more technically demanding jump line. Not necessarily because the jump is huge, but it's like, hey, you know, if you don't hit that landing, you're gonna shoulder it.
It's a big part of the rhythm of being able to hit the next couple of features. Like everything is sort of set up so that you're gonna, if you screw something up, the rest of the line is in trouble for you.
Yeah, that's why I bailed out that one. I was like,
sure.
I lost my foot.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's cool though. That's part of what makes a jump line technical, right? Is like piecing it all together.
What may be a blue somewhere else, you know, is maybe on the upper end of an intermediate here, because it's like, that rate of speed, like visually as you're riding, it like changes the whole dynamic of the system. And you know, we're used to riding the trails in here, and people come in who are really good riders a lot of times, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so tight. Like, I don't even know how to go fast through this. And it's not because they're bad, it's just, it takes a ride to get used to it. You okay?
Yeah, that one spot I heard you yell too. That was actually at the same time that she went offline.
I'm like,
that was a super slick spot there. That was wild, yeah. That was sweet though. I honestly think it'll be super fun to watch.